Welcome back to Sane Reactions. I'm your host Kev, and today I want to do a little bit of follow-up video with some actual factual information. We're talking about charts. I'm going to give details, and I'm going to go a little bit more in depth because the last video I made, there was some people that were extremely upset because they felt like I was being one-sided, I wasn't being fair, and I was only basing what I said off of my opinion. But now I'm gonna present you with facts. I'm gonna present you with actual data that shows the price of oil, crude oil. It's going to show you the production of oil on the US. It's going to show you the strategic oil reserves that we had. And I'm going to even show you an actual chart that shows the price of all kinds of things. We're talking about eggs. We're talking about meat, electricity. We're talking about a majority of the things that matter to normal everyday Americans that we all depend on, which is the main focus of a lot of the cost of living criteria that they're asking about. I'm going to show you guys the information. But before we get into it, thank you to all my subscribers, everybody that's actually liking my videos, describing what it is that they feel, and leaving the comments down below. I appreciate all of you. And I want to say thank you to all my new subscribers. I'm glad you're here. I love all you sane folk, and I'm gonna present you something that nobody else is gonna take the time to present. Nobody else is going to take the time to actually give you and tell you where to go find the same exact things that I'm showing you. And you make the judgment call for yourself. It's not based off of my opinion. It's based off of data. And before we get into it, and I just want to say, you know, if we can, I know some of you have strong emotions about how you feel, but if we could keep it kosher down in the comments, remember that your opinion is your opinion. Someone else's opinion is their opinion. You don't have to attack. You don't have to be nasty. I personally, I know I have some people saying that, you know, comments are getting deleted. I'm not deleting them. That's the moderation on YouTube. And if you're saying something that they deem offensive or hateful, they're going to automatically remove your comment. That has nothing to do with me. I have not deleted one comment. I have not restricted anybody. I haven't done anything. That's the moderation system on YouTube. But, you know, if you have an opinion, feel free to leave it, but don't attack people. Let's keep it civil. Let's keep it peaceful, and let's actually have a conversation, because at the end of the day, this is my America. It's your America. We all got to live with it, regardless of who wins the presidency. I'm just bringing you information. I want you guys to actually have an informed decision when you decide who you're going to vote for, you know. And without further delay, let's get into it. All right. I'm gonna give y'all a heads up. This is gonna be an informative video, but I'm gonna try to keep it short, condensed, and sweet. And before we get started, I'm gonna replay the video that I made, my video. I'm gonna replay just a short clip, and we're gonna see if he's telling lies, if it's not what he did when he was in office. So let's go ahead and listen to what he says, and let's look at the data. Now, first up, we're going to look and see the question that was proposed to Trump in his town hall is going to be very, very similar to the one that was proposed to Harris. And that is, how are we going to lower the cost of living and the cost of housing and get back to an actual affordable America where we can all prosper? Let's see what he had to say.
And running a household, people just can't survive now. How are you going to bring down the cost of food and groceries?
You heard the question.
Very good. Thank you. So we have to start always with energy. Always. I don't want to be boring about it, but there's no bigger subject. It covers everything. If you make donuts, if you make cars, whatever you make, energy is a big deal. And we're going to get that. It's my ambition to get your energy bill within 12 months down 50%. If I can do that,
time frame,
a hell of a job. 50,
percentage,
not 15, 50.
and subject. Energy, 12 months, 50%.
And actually, they're going to follow for another reason. The
interest
economy
rates
is now not good. and interest rates. You'll see they'll do the rate cut and all the political stuff tomorrow, I think. And, you know, will he do a half a point? Will he do a quarter of a point? But the reason is because the economy's not good. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do it. But we're going to get interest rates down, and we got to work with our farmers. Our farmers are being decimated right now. They're being absolutely
Agricultural industry
decimated. And, you know, one of the reasons is we allow.
All right. Now, y'all heard what he said. We all heard what he said, okay? And we're going to look at what he actually was able to accomplish. Not what he said he was going to accomplish, but what he actually did. We're going to look at the data. And again, I want you to make the conclusion that you come to based on data. Don't just go based off of what people are saying. That is a big problem that we have in today's society, is that people aren't informed and they don't get the information. But let's look at it. First thing we're going to look at, the average price of, let's go with crude oil, because there's a reason we want to go with crude oil, is because a lot of people don't seem to really understand is that most of the energy that is produced is going to be produced by actual gas electric turbines in this country, and that is going to dictate the amount that is going to be directly associated with your cost of energy, and it's also going to dictate the gas prices. Now, this is actually on macrotrends.net, and if you look again, this is crude oil versus gasoline prices, and the chart breaks it down pretty clear, okay? And we're gonna focus on between 2016 and 2020, which is when Trump was president. We could look at the data before, we could look at the data afterwards, but this is what we're going to focus on, and this is what's most important and what's going to be the key takeaway here, because what you see between 2016 and 2020 is going to be a direct reflection of the Trump presidency and how he handled things versus how everybody else handled things. All right, so we're going to go and we're going to start from January 2016, okay? If you look at this chart, you're going to notice that gasoline prices were at $1.86 and oil prices were at $33.62 per barrel. So the way that this is gonna show is that the if it's a little too small on the device that you're watching, the red line is going to be the gasoline prices and the blue line is going to be the oil prices. Now, if we move over and scroll through this, we can see that we have small fluctuations up and down, up and down, up and down. But at the peak of Trump being in office, his prices peaked out at around $2.96. But this was only for a matter of maybe a month, and then you can see it falls off, and then it actually hits a record low, a price of, and we're looking at January of 2020, okay? And we see that between January and February, gas prices, they stayed and leveled off around 247, and then in March and April it was down to $2.01, and that was in 2020. Now, the price that you see there on your screen hadn't been like that for 20 years. If you look back on the chart and we go right back here and we look at the prices back in, I want to say December 2001, right after, you know, we were all thrusted into chaos. That's where gas prices and fuel and crude oil prices were then. Now, if you follow this chart, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to see the 4 years that this man was in office, the giant dip. We're looking at the Grand Canyon on this chart versus the 4 to 5 years before him, and the 4 to 5 years, or the 4 years technically after him. Gas prices under Mr. Joe peaked at $4.87. Crude oil prices, $106.37. Where did Trump tell the lie? He told you a fact. He recalled and detailed exactly what he intends to do, and let's compare it to what he actually did while he was in office. So you can see right here, leading up to the election cycle, this is, you can call this election drilling, election price reduction, because you're going to always see it right before an election, no matter the candidate, no matter what year. You're going to see a little fall off right before we get to election. But you can see that before him, the peak was 283, and then it averaged around 370. While he was in office, we're looking at almost, let's see, we're at 203 with a low of $2. So, you know, we're looking at probably roughly about a 30 to 45% decrease over the course of his whole presidency. And then once Biden takes office, it's just up, 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 up. It just keeps going up. And it damn near levels off to exactly what he did while he was in office with Obama. You guys see the data? That's just this chart. Let's look at the next chart. The next chart we're going to look at is going to be crude oil production. That's the oil that we're actually making here in the US. Okay. Now, there's some of the data is missing from here because they don't have anything on the chart prior to January 2022 on this chart, but I believe I do have the strategic oil numbers on another chart. But again, we're going to focus on 2016, January 2016 to 2020. If you look at this chart, he said he was going to produce as much US oil and gas as he possibly could, and that is precisely what he did. If you look at this chart, we were averaging about 9,000 at peak. Let's say 9,000 barrels a day. And if you follow it forward, you can see that at the peak in right there, January 2020, 13,100 per day. And you can see as soon as he left office, boom, it falls right off. It literally just instantly falls off. And this is actual data. This is not my opinion. This is exactly what was recorded and what they were looking at. Now, the reason this is important is because this is US oil production. This is not our actual our dependency on foreign oil. This is what we were producing and what we were selling. Now, if you look one more chart, and I'll stop boring you guys with oil. We're going to look at things that you probably understand. This is the actual strategic oil, the actual stocks that we had in case of an emergency, in case of anything were to happen. This is the reserve that we depend on as a country to carry us through and keep things to where we can actually still afford to try to maintain our families while dealing with any conflicts or any situations that may come up in the world. Now, if you look at the chart, again, we're going to look between, I know it's a little small here, but we're going to look between 2016. We have January 2016. All right. And on this chart, we had at that time 695,119,000 barrels. So whatever number we're reading, you're going to multiply that times 1,000. That's how much we had in the reserve. Okay. Now, by 2020, which is, we're going to go to January of 2020. We have 634,967,000 barrels. You see how we maintained while simultaneously gas prices went down. We never touched our strategic oil reserve. That means that the gas prices were going down primarily because of an actual increase in production of US gas and oil. Now, if you look at 2020, this is actually a scary chart to look at, because if you look at the buildup of this chart, we're going to go back to 1984. 1980, from 1984 to 2000, and let's call it 2011. Think about that. That's 27 years of slowly building up the stockpile, slowly building it up, undone. And we're going to go and we're going to be fair. We're going to go from January of 2020. Boom. We're at 634,967,000 barrels. Again, whatever number we're seeing here, you multiply it by 1,000, that's what we actually had. And in November 2023, we had 351,911,000 barrels. This man, while we were simultaneously paying an exorbitant amount more at the pump, depleted our actual strategic reserves, and in an attempt to bring down the gas prices, while simultaneously doing this for political favor. I could see no other reason. And it's nuts. And keep in mind, we're talking about 27 years of stockpiling undone in the matter of 3. There has to be a sane conversation to be had about that. But we're gonna get to the meat and potatoes here. The slide that I really want you to all pay attention to. Again, this is not make-believe. This is the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. This is the numbers that were recorded by our government. And the cool thing about this chart, if you guys go to the website or you Google it, you're going to see that you're going to be able to interact with it and pull up each thing one at a time. The first thing we're going to look at electricity, kilowatts per hours. And we're going to look at the cost. Okay. Now, I know some of you are going to see these numbers and you're going to be like, oh, we're just talking about cents here. But this is the primary dictator as to what it is your bill, when it's calculated out, when the power company decides to, produce your bill, they take this number and they apply that to their formula to calculate what it's going to cost you at the end of the month. Now, at the end of at the beginning of 2020, I'm sorry. Boom, January 2020, we're looking at 13 cents. 13 cents per kilowatt hour, okay? In 2016, when he took office, 13 cents per kilowatt hour. The reason Trump is saying that he needs to pull this down by 50% and that it's going to have the effect that it's going to have on you, and again, he said it's a goal. He is going to do exactly, he's going to try to undo everything that was done to hit this goal, and I believe that's his plan. But let's look at the numbers. After 2020, prices just start going up. And in 2024, we're talking about this month. We're talking about the beginning of this month. It's at 18 cents per kilowatt. Now, again, the difference between 18 cents and 13 cents, a lot of people aren't going to be able to really just kind of quantify that. But let's look at the difference between the two. We're talking about a 6 cent difference. Okay, that means if you take that, you take the 13 cents and you divided it by 100, and then you do the same thing with the 18 cents. The difference between the two, we're talking about a 40% difference between when he left office and what it is right now. So your energy prices are literally 40% more than what they were just 3.5 years ago. And that's where the energy cost comes in. And you got to remember, this is the cost that we're paying for our houses, that these big factories and industries, farmers, it doesn't matter what industry it is, this is the price that these people are paying for energy. And it all comes back to the actual price of gas. Okay, so let's look at gasoline. Okay, we're just going to look at gasoline by itself. Before we looked at the chart with crude oil, now we're going to look at gasoline. And if we look at the chart, we can see that it was a low of 188 and at a peak of 506. That was the peak. That's the difference between 188 and 506. We're talking about almost a 250% increase in the gas price. That's a big difference. Like, how anybody could look past that, I don't know, but that's what it is, you know. And again, let's look at the big giant cavern that we see here, the Grand Canyon. We're gonna look before Trump, during his presidency, after Trump. I mean, I'm not saying the guy is a magician, but he definitely worked magic on those prices in the economy to get those prices where they were. But let's look at things that, you know, most people, you know, you and me, this is the things that matter to us, the groceries. This is where we're feeling it the most. What we're looking at right now is eggs, okay? And the price in January of 2020 was 146. And that was for a dozen large grade A eggs. The peak under Biden was 482. Eggs were almost as expensive as gasoline. Now, right now, it's sitting at $3.20. That's for a dozen. Now, I don't know. Most Americans, we buy the 18 packs because we have a lot of kids. We eat a lot of breakfast. You need at least 18 eggs to feed a family of 4 every week if you guys are eating a healthy diet. And I'm paying about $5 for an 18 pack of eggs right now, and that's at Walmart, the economy shopper's place. And again, this is direct data. You can't say that it's just opinion. We're gonna remove that and let's look at the cost of beef. You know, he's talking about agriculture. He's talking about farmers. He's talking about the industries that affect us directly and bringing down their costs and actually making sure that they get the support they need in order to have the markets to sell their product, not just to Americans, but to be able to sell it overseas, to be able to sell to other countries, because we do produce a lot here in the States. Now, if we're looking at the cost of beef per pound, and let's see here. Sorry, I got to move extremely slow to find January 2020. It was at $4.10 per pound of 100% ground chuck. We're just talking about ground beef. We're not talking about sirloin. We're not talking about ribeyes. We're not talking about steaks, because those prices are insane. Right now, we're going from that to $5.64 a pound. So on average, we're paying about 20. Let's call it 25% more per pound for beef, and that's just ground chuck. If you get into the higher cuts of beef, if God forbid you want to have a date night, it's going to cost you at least 40-50 bucks for a couple of nice New York strips or some ribeyes. It used to be like 17 $18, and I don't know who's affording those prices. But the one last thing that we're going to look at here is going to be bread. All right, now when he left, we're going to look January 2020, $1.35 per pound for bread. Now we're at $1.95. So we have about a 70-cent increase, which again doesn't seem like much, but it's about a 30 to 40% increase over what it was. And this is where a lot of my information, a lot of my data was coming from. And this is why I was telling you guys what it was that I was telling you. I wasn't basing it off of just, a random fact. I was basing it off of data and things that I've looked at, because I'm not just going and making these videos and bringing my opinion to you to just gaslight and blow smoke up your rear end. I really want to bring information to you guys that is not necessarily being pushed in the front, but when I see that it's actually being brought up, I'm gonna highlight it, because I feel like it's honest and it's fair. Now, as far as the remarks of her talking about price gouging, what I want people to realize is that price gouging and inflation are two completely different things. Price gouging only occurs when you have an increased demand for a product, and the rise in price is very, very sharp, and it's not long term. And when that happens, usually most states already have laws and things in place to make sure that that's not allowed to be done, to protect you. A lot of states have their own private consumer protection agencies that make sure you report that they're going to get investigated and they will be fined accordingly. Now, as far as the price of goods overall, that is all due to inflation. All these numbers that I just showed you on these charts are all inflated numbers. They're inflated because, we simultaneously cut oil production domestically while increasing our usage of our strategic supply, and the price per barrel that we're paying, he said 100, but we looked, it was as high as 106 $107 a barrel. That is a big difference. And I just wanted, again, this video was just to bring you guys the facts and give you a little bit more information and show you that it's not all what you're being told. A lot of the things that you need to really look at that affect your life, you almost got to go digging for it, because the news media is not going to tell you. Because these people that are, again, these are people making six-figure salaries and they're doing well for themselves. I have nothing against people doing well for themselves, but when the policies and the people that are in power aren't held accountable and aren't really looking out for the regular Americans' interests, it should be pointed out. It should be highlighted. And I never intended, to come on here and make it primarily a politicized channel. It's just that this is just currently what's going on and what's affecting everybody. And it's something that, I'm only trying to offer a different perspective. But with that, like I said, if we can, down in the comments, keep it kosher. If you have anything to disprove what it is that I showed today or what I spoke about, please feel free, leave it in your comment. Tell people where to look and where to find the information, and really let's inform each other. If there's something that I didn't look up that you would like me to look at, let me know. And just be respectful. And at the end of the day, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. So if you want, go ahead and hit me with a like, hit me with a subscribe, and I'm gonna try to bring more content that you guys enjoy. You don't have to take it so personally. I appreciate all of you. I love all you sane folk, and anybody that is here to enjoy my content, thank you. Until next time, y'all have a good night.